My son yelled at me in front of 25 people. Audio by paper to audio. My son yelled at me in front of 25 people at Christmas dinner. Mom, if you want to keep living here, pay the rent like any other tenant or leave. What Daniel didn't know was that this 2,000 SQ-FT penthouse in Lincoln Park, Chicago, where he boasted about living thanks to his successful career as an architect, was mine. The silver Audi he parked every night in the garage was mine. The credit card his wife Vanessa used to buy designer bags on the Magnificent Mile was mine. Everything. Absolutely everything was mine. I am Alina Morales. I am 64 years old, and this is the story of how my silence nearly destroyed my only son and how breaking it saved him. The aroma of roasted turkey filled every corner of the penthouse. I'd been working since 6 in the morning, preparing the dishes Daniel had loved since childhood. 25 people settled into the dining room: cousins, uncles, Daniel's friends, Vanessa's colleagues. The table shone with fine china and crystal glasses reflecting the Christmas tree lights. I moved between kitchen and dining room, serving, clearing, refilling glasses. My apron was stained with gravy, my hair pulled back in a simple bun. From the kitchen counter, I watched Daniel at the head of the table in his linen shirt and expensive watch, boasting to his cousin about his latest project on Michigan Avenue. "The salary for a senior architect in Chicago isn't bad at all," he said, gesturing with his wine glass. "Enough to keep this place, the car, everything." Vanessa smiled beside him in a red dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "And even so," she added loudly, "the bills never stop. This house, the lifestyle, nothing is free in Chicago." Several heads nodded. The conversation revolved around money and the cost of living for people who had just ordered their third bottle of expensive wine. Then it happened. Daniel wiped his mouth, took a sip of wine, and looked directly at me. "Mom," he said, cutting off all conversation, "since we're talking about the house, I've been thinking. If you want to continue living here, you should contribute to the rent like any adult who shares a space." 25 pairs of eyes turned toward me. "It's only fair," he added, looking around for approval. "If that's difficult with your widow's pension, maybe you should look for something more in line with your means." Vanessa nodded. "Everyone must be responsible for their own expenses, even family." I looked around the table. My cousin Maria avoided my gaze. Uncle Hector concentrated on his plate. A few guests nodded slightly. No one, not a single person, raised their voice in my defense. 28 years of sacrifice evaporated in the penthouse's air conditioning. I placed the serving spoon down carefully, folded my napkin, and stood. "Thank you all for coming. This will probably be the last Christmas dinner I spend in this house." "Mom, don't be dramatic," Daniel started. "You're right, Daniel. It's time to be realistic." I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and opened my nightstand drawer. Inside was a manila folder containing documents no one in this house knew existed. Articles of incorporation for Morales Holdings LLC stock shares. Alina Morales, 85%. Property contracts showing the penthouse, the Audi, the credit card, all registered to my company. I dialed Carlos Mendez, my late husband's right-hand man, and the only person who knew the full truth. "Carlos, prepare all documents related to Daniel first thing tomorrow. The lease, the vehicle authorization, the credit card statements." "Alina, are you sure?" "Completely. It's time my son learned the true meaning of independence." I packed a single suitcase. 3 blouses, 2 pairs of pants, 1 sweater. Everything fit in half a bag. I had spent 40 years building an empire, and in the last 3, I had allowed my son to trample that legacy while I served dinner in silence. I dragged the suitcase down the hall. The wheels screeched across hardwood, cutting the music like a knife. 25 heads turned. "Don't be dramatic, Alina," Vanessa said. "We're just having an adult conversation about responsibilities." "You're right, it's time for all of us to be responsible adults." "Mom, where are you going?" Daniel asked, cheeks flushed. "I already ordered a car. Merry Christmas, Daniel." Downstairs, I told the doorman to allow the company to retrieve the Audi from parking space 7. Outside, a Morales Holdings car waited. I settled into the back seat as nighttime Chicago passed by, the illuminated streets, the lake, the skyline I had conquered dollar by dollar, brick by brick. The car stopped at my real apartment in Hyde Park, a modest 850 SQ-FT unit in a 4-story building. No doorman, no luxuries, my secret refuge. That night, I logged into the Morales Holdings system and clicked on Daniel's folder. 3 clicks. That was all I needed to change my son's life. The next morning at the Morales Holdings office on Michigan Avenue, I met with Carlos and our lawyer, Sofia Delgado. We drafted 3 documents: a lease non-renewal notice giving Daniel 30 days to vacate, a vehicle return demand within 48 hours, and an immediate credit card cancellation. Is it too harsh? Carlos asked. Gradual would be cruel. He needs to feel the full impact to understand the magnitude of his mistake. By noon, the card was blocked. By evening, the certified letters were sent. The next morning, Daniel opened his laptop to find the eviction notice. He called the management office, panicked, and was told the market rate for his penthouse was $3,800 a month, far beyond his $2,800 salary. The preferential $1,400 rate he'd enjoyed for 3 years was gone. That afternoon, Vanessa's card was declined at a department store on the Magnificent Mile. When she called the bank, she learned the primary holder, Elena Morales, had canceled it the day before. The following morning, 2 men in reflective vests arrived at the penthouse to recover the Audi. Daniel handed over the keys in stunned silence. Desperate, Daniel went to the Morales Holdings office. In the lobby, he froze at a photograph on the wall, his father, Roberto, in a construction helmet with a plaque reading, Co-founder, 1989 to 2017. His father had been a construction worker. He had never mentioned owning part of a real estate empire. Carlos met him professionally but revealed nothing about the true ownership. As Daniel left, he noticed a woman in the background of the photograph, his mother, holding a folder, commanding the room. That night, Daniel searched online and found it. Elena Morales, principal shareholder of Morales Holdings. Estimated portfolio value, $38 million. Your mother owns everything, Vanessa whispered, collapsing onto the couch. The apartment, the car, the card, and you told her to pay rent in her own house. Daniel visited his grandmother Rosa at Mercy Hospital. She confirmed everything. Your mother wanted you to be strong on your own, Rosa said, but you thought her humility was weakness, her generosity an obligation. You boasted about a life she financed while she wore the same coat for 5 years. What do I do now? Daniel asked, tears streaming. Start from scratch, son, like your parents did, without their money, without their contacts, just you and your own effort. By January 30th, Daniel moved into a 450 SQ-FT apartment in Pilsen. 8th floor, no elevator, moisture stains on the walls. Rent, $850 a month. Vanessa left 3 days later, returning to her parents' house in Miami with a note. Call me when you become the man I married again. Daniel spent his first night on the floor of his empty apartment, calculating his budget. After rent, food, and transportation, he had $380 left per month. In his previous life, Vanessa spent that on a handbag. Weeks passed. Daniel took a second job with a small firm in Logan Square run by Marcus Thompson, a man who had worked with his father decades ago. The pay was modest, the work grueling, construction sites by day, design work by night. But Marcus taught him something no architecture school had: buildings aren't for showing off. They're for people to live in with dignity. His neighbor Helen, an elderly woman who brought him spaghetti and coffee, reminded him of his mother. You have her same determination, Helen said one night. That look of someone building something real. In April, Vanessa sent divorce papers. Daniel signed them without a fight. By summer, Daniel had designed a modular housing project for Chicago's South Side, 120 affordable apartments on abandoned industrial land. Construction cost per unit, $75,000. Sale price, $80,000. A 6.7% margin, enough for sustainability, not for excess. Marcus secured him a meeting with an investment group interested in social impact projects. The address was on Michigan Avenue, the Morales Holdings building. Daniel called Marcus in panic. There's a mistake. No mistake, trust me. Daniel walked into the building he'd visited months ago in confusion. Now he carried a worn briefcase, a second-hand suit, and 50 pages of dreams. The boardroom doors opened, and there she was. Elena Morales, sitting at the head of a long oak table, flanked by Carlos, Sofia, and 3 executives. "Mr. Vega," she said professionally, "please sit down and begin your presentation. We have 1 hour." For 45 minutes, Daniel presented every detail. Modular design, sustainable materials, natural light, community spaces. When asked why the margin was so thin, he answered, "Because thousands of families are being pushed out of the city where they were born. This project won't make us rich, but it will let us sleep at night." Then Elena asked a personal question. Why this project? Why now? Daniel looked at her, 6 months of pain passing between their gazes. "Because 6 months ago I lost everything. My house, my car, my marriage, my pride. Living in an $850 apartment in Pilsen, climbing 8 flights of stairs, cooking instant noodles, that taught me more about architecture than 5 years of college. Buildings aren't for impressing. They're for living. And the people who need dignified housing most are the ones with the least access to it." Elena closed her notebook. "Will inform you within 48 hours. As Daniel reached the door, he paused. "President Morales, regardless of your decision, thank you for every lesson, even the ones that hurt." After he left, the executives debated. The margin was thin, the risk high. But Elena looked out the window at the Chicago skyline and thought of Roberto, who always said buildings were for creating dignity, not accumulating wealth. "Full investment," she said, $9.6 million. Daniel will be project director with strict financial supervision. If he succeeds, we offer him a permanent position, not as my son, but as an architect who proved his worth." That night, Elena was admitted to Northwestern Memorial Hospital with a cardiac episode brought on by months of exhaustion. Daniel rushed to her bedside at midnight. She looked small and fragile, connected to monitors that beeped softly. "Mom," he whispered, taking her cold hand, "why are you doing this to yourself?" "Because I had to be sure you'd seize this opportunity for the right reasons. Your presentation today, Roberto would have cried with pride. Forgive me for every cruel word, every moment of ingratitude." Elena touched his cheek. "You are already forgiven. I forgave you the night you left. What took time was waiting for you to forgive yourself." The project broke ground in September. Daniel was on site every morning at 6. When a subcontractor cut corners and a wall collapsed, Daniel fired them immediately and absorbed the $35,000 cost from his contingency budget. When Elena reviewed the incident at the monthly board meeting, she simply said, "Mistakes happen. What matters is how we respond." The first completed unit was delivered the following August to the Rivera family, who had been living in a cramped apartment on the south side. Their 10-year-old son, Ethan, ran through the light-filled rooms laughing. "I want to be an architect when I grow up," he told Daniel, "to build nice houses for people like us." Daniel knelt down and handed the boy his card. "When you're ready to study, call me." That night, he sent his mother a photo of Ethan smiling at the entrance of his new home. Elena replied, "This is what building a legacy means. Well done, son." 1 year after that fateful Christmas, Elena hosted dinner in her Hyde Park apartment. The table was smaller, no expensive china, no crystal, just mismatched plates and food made with love. Carlos and his family, Sofia, Marcus, Helen, Grandma Rosa, and the Rivera family. After dinner, Daniel stood up. "Exactly 1 year ago, I told my mother to pay rent in her own house. I humiliated her. And she did what only a truly wise mother would do, she let me fall. And in that fall, she taught me to fly." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Inside was a check for $16,800, every dollar he'd spent on her credit card during those 3 years, saved over 12 months. Elena tore the check into pieces. "I don't want your money, I want your character, and that is priceless." They embraced for the first time in a year, and the table erupted in applause. Later, washing dishes side by side, Elena offered Daniel a position directing Morales Holdings' new social impact division. A fair salary, no special privileges, but the opportunity to change hundreds of lives. "Yes," Daniel said, "with one condition. We have dinner at least once a week. No work talk, just mother and son." "Deal." 5 years later, Daniel stood before a complex of 15 buildings on Chicago's South Side. The Roberto Morales Residential Complex, 450 social impact homes. Beside him stood Alina, now 69, officially retired but never truly absent. In the audience were the families who had received housing: Ethan Rivera with a full architecture scholarship, Helen dabbing her eyes, and Clara, the schoolteacher Daniel had married 2 years ago, a woman who loved his purpose, not his status. "This project honors my father," Daniel told the crowd, who believed buildings were for creating dignity. "But it is also the legacy of my mother, who taught me that true love sometimes has to let you fall so you can learn to fly." He looked at Alina. 5 years ago, I was an arrogant man who believed he deserved everything without earning it. Today, I am a man who tries every day to be worthy of the name I carry." That night, on Alina's apartment terrace overlooking the Chicago skyline, she asked, "Are you happy, son?" "Yes, more than ever." "And you, Mom?" "I am at peace, which is better than happiness. Happiness comes and goes, peace remains." "What gives you peace?" "Seeing you become the man I always knew you could be." She extended her hand toward the city lights. "Everything I built is not my true legacy. You are the man you became. That is my masterpiece." They sat together as Chicago shone below them. A city of dreams built with effort, of homes earned with dignity, of legacies that transcend generations. Alina's silence, which had nearly destroyed her family, had finally spoken, and its message was clear. True love is not demonstrated with easy gifts, but with difficult lessons, not measured in dollars spent, but in character forged. Alina Morales had built a real estate empire, but her true inheritance was a son who finally understood that the value of a person is not measured by what they own, but by what they build with their own hands. You have reached the end of the text.